Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Dr. Varkis Ophthalmology Tutorials. Today and in further few videos we will discuss about glaucoma, and this video is all about introduction to glaucoma. I will be explaining grossly how this glaucoma is happening, what are the ocular structures which are involved in the pathophysiology of the glaucoma, about the words which are frequently used when we deal with glaucoma. So you should have a thorough knowledge of all this, then we will go on to the further discussion about the glaucoma. Okay. At the end of this video, I have an announcement to make this learning process still more interesting. So keep watching this video till the end to know about that announcement. Okay. So without much delay, we will begin with the glaucoma. So whenever somebody tells about glaucoma, the immediate words which come to our mind are like intraocular pressure, what is the cup disc ratio, how is the optic disc, what are the visual field changes patient is having, what treatment patient is on. So these are the few words which keep coming when we discuss about glaucoma. So better we should know what these words exactly mean so that we can understand glaucoma in depth. So the first word to explain is the optic disc. Okay, into the fundus of the retina we have two important structures called as the optic disc and the macula. So what happens here is, as you know, there are 10 layers of retina. Okay, so the 8th one is the ganglion cell layer, the axons of which constitute the retinal nerve fibers. So all these retinal nerve fibers, which are about 1.7 million in number, fibers from different part of the fundus come and they pass through this opening in the sclera called as lamina cribrosa and then get exited through the eyeball and form the optic nerve. This is the normal physiological thing which is happening there. So now you know how this optic disc is formed. This is nothing but the place where all the retinal nerve fibers exit the eyeball and form the optic nerve. Clear? So they have the peculiar arrangement of the retinal nerve fibers, like the nasal fibers, temporal fibers and the fibers which are around the macula. Okay, so you can grossly divide all these retinal nerve fibers like this. So the nasal fibers which are coming from the nasal half of the retina come and get exited on the nasal part of the optic disc. The temporal fibers and the fibers which are just above this papilomacular bundle, they go through the superior and inferior pole and the temporal part. Okay, and the papilomacular bundle directly go through the temporal part. So these retinal nerve fibers have peculiar arrangement. Okay, so those who are coming from the nasal half get exited through the nasal part of the optic disc. Those which are coming from the superior as well as above the arcade get exited through the superior and inferior pole of the optic disc as well as some part of the temporal part. Those fibers which are around the macula are called as papilomacular bundle and they come and get exited through the temporal part of the optic disc. So this is how the retinal nerve fibers are arranged and this is how they get out of the eyeball. Okay, to form the optic nerve. And if you see the cut section, this is how it looks. This is the lamina cribrosa part and this is the sclera. So the nerve fibers come and get exited like this, okay, through the lamina cribrosa to form the optic nerve. So in glaucoma, the pathology revolves around these retinal nerve fibers. It is the death of these retinal nerve fibers and leading to death of the ganglion cells which will lead to the problems of glaucoma. So how these retinal nerve fibers are affected? We have two factors affecting here, that is the mechanical factors as well as vascular factor. So first we will see about mechanical factor. This is mainly because of increase in the intraocular pressure. So normally there is some pressure within the eye to keep it distended and to carry out some functions. If it is more than that normal range of 10 to 21 mm of mercury, that will lead to mechanical changes. So initially when the intraocular pressure rises, it will lead to compromise in the capillary blood flow along the retinal nerve fibers, and it will also disturb the axoplasmic flow, thereby leading to RNFL damage. And when the mechanical pressure is more, it will lead to posterior bowing of this lamina cribrosa. Okay, this is the sclera and this is lamina cribrosa. So there is posterior bowing or the bulging of the lamina cribrosa leading to squeezing of the pores of the lamina cribrosa. As I told, all the optic nerves will be coming through the lamina fibrosa, perforating the glial tissue. Okay, so the glial tissue, here there will be small openings in the, so there will be multiple small openings in the glial tissue through which the retinal nerve fibers were coming out. So what happens when there is increased pressure because of the posterior bowing of the lamina fibrosa, all these pores will become squeezed. Okay, so they will decrease in size and it will mechanically disturb the retinal nerve fibers, leading to retinal nerve fiber damage. Okay, and also there is angulation of these retinal nerve fibers because of the posterior bowing, leading to damage to the retinal nerve fibers. So this is about the mechanical factor. The second one is the avascular factor. As the name suggests, there is compromise in the blood supply to the retinal nerve fibers, leading to death of all these retinal nerve fiber layer. The causes for this vascular compromise can be anything from hypotension, vasospasm or acute blood loss, decreased perfusion pressure. All these will compromise the blood supply to the retinal nerve fibers, leading to death of these retinal ganglion cells. And one more factor which is seen in some cases of glaucoma are, like in some cases of glaucoma where there is no increased intraocular pressure or there is no vascular compromise, but still there can be glaucoma. That is seen in patients where the optic disc has larger fenestrations. Okay, so when the optic disc is having larger fenestration, the retinal nerve fibers will bend more. Okay, so this bending itself will lead to mechanical effect as well as vascular compromise. Suppose when the optic nerve fiber is going through snugly fitting opening, it goes straight. If there is opening, if the opening is very large, then it tends to bend like this, leading to damage to the optic nerve. These factors, that is mechanical factor, vascular factor, as well as increased size of pore of the lamina fibrosa, will ultimately hamper the transport of the neurotrophic material for the retinal nerve fiber, leading to death of the retinal nerve fiber. What happens when there is death of retinal nerve fibers? So as I told, there is some peculiar arrangement of these retinal nerve fibers. So the superior retinal nerve fibers will carry the image of the inferior field of vision. Similarly, the inferior nerve fibers will carry the image of the superior field. So the opposite field images are carried by the retinal nerve fibers. So whenever there is a defect in the retinal nerve fibers, patient will manifest with the visual field defects. I will explain what is visual field. So, but if there is a death of single nerve fiber, suppose there is a death of few nerve fibers in this layer, will there be a visual field in the corresponding superior part? It may not happen because there is something called as functional zone. Okay, and these functional zones usually overlap. Okay, so there is overlapping functional zone. So until the damage is so large that it is involving or it is crossing the functional zone also, then they will manifest with the visual field defects. Okay, in glaucoma, usually the first one to get affected are the superior and the inferior pore fibers, which represent the visual field in the arcate area. Okay, so there will be corresponding visual field defects. So what is this arcate area? This is area above and below the macula, but within the vascular arcade. So this is the arcate area. So all this time I was telling about the intraocular pressure. So what is intraocular pressure? This is nothing but the pressure from inside the eye, which is keeping the eyeball distended to carry out the functions of the eyeball. So it is mainly contributed by the fluid within the eyeball. So what fluids we have in the eye? We have aqueous as well as vitreous. Okay. So if there is increased production of the aqueous or decreased drainage of the aqueous, it can lead to increased IOP. So similarly with the vitreous, if there is increased vitreous like secondary to hydration of the vitreous, or decreased vitreation like in dehydrated state of vitreous, or when we do vitrectomy, the IOP will decrease. So let's see about this aqueous humor. Though it's mainly the aqueous which is involved in the pathogenesis of the intraocular pressure, the property of the vitreous is made use to decrease the intraocular pressure when we are managing glaucoma patients. Okay, we will just induce a dehydrated state in the vitreous so that the intraocular pressure decreases. But in the pathogenesis, it is not involved directly. So as you can see in this picture, this is the iris ciliary body. Okay, it has pars plana and the pars plicator part. So from here, the aqueous humor is produced from the ciliary body. It comes through the posterior chamber, okay, and gets out through the pupil and comes to the anterior chamber. And here in the anterior chamber, this is called as the angle of the anterior chamber, that is formed by the cornea and the iris. And we have a very important structure here called as the trabecular meshwork. Okay, so the aqueous humor will get drained through this trabecular meshwork. It is nothing but a sieve-like thing through which the aqueous will come out. After passing through the trabecular meshwork, it goes through the Schlemm's canal, okay, and then through the collector channel and then through the episcleral veins. Okay, so this is how the aqueous humor is drained out. This pathway is called as the conventional pathway or trabecular pathway. One more pathway through which the aqueous gets drained is the uveoscleral pathway. Okay, so here ultimately the fluid will get drained into the suprachoroidal space, then through the sclera and the vessels which are exiting through the sclera, the aqueous gets drained out. Okay, so whenever there is problem with the aqueous drainage, okay, so the problem can be here itself. If there is adhesion between the iris and the lens, the aqueous can get trapped here, leading to increased intraocular pressure. If there is synechiae between the iris and the lens, or there is pupillary block, the aqueous can get trapped in the posterior chamber, leading to intraocular pressure rise. And when it comes to the anterior chamber, if the trabecular meshwork is blocked, the sieve-like thing is blocked because of the inflammatory cells, or it can be because of the blood, anything, cause can be anything. If the sieves are not properly working, again the aqueous is not getting drained out, leading to raised intraocular pressure. Even there can be synechiae, means the opposition of the cornea to the peripheral iris, okay, leading to blockage of the trabecular meshwork. So all these mechanisms can contribute to raised intraocular pressure, and ultimately episcleral veins. The aqueous is getting drained through the episcleral vein. If the pressure in the episcleral venous system itself is more, all this process will not happen. Means the fluid will be here only, because of the pressure gradient it is not able to get drained. So the normal episcleral venous pressure is 8 to 10 mm. If it is more than this, there is a problem with the drainage of the aqueous. It is said that 1 mm rise in the episcleral pressure can lead to 1 mm rise in the intraocular pressure as well. There are so many causes for raised episcleral pressure, like thyroid eye disease, carotid cavernous fistula, or the cavernous sinus syndrome. All this can lead to glaucoma. So we have two outflow pathway, that is trabecular outflow pathway as well as uveoscleral outflow pathway. This contributes only to 5 to 15% of the drainage, and this is independent of the intraocular pressure. And this can be enhanced by using cycloplegic drugs as well as prostaglandin analogs and adrenergic drugs. Okay. So this is about the aqueous humor production and drainage in brief. Okay. Briefly I have explained. In detail we will go in next videos. And the last word which is frequently used in glaucoma is the visual field defects. So what is this visual field defect? If I am looking at some target, I will still be able to see the surrounding structures around the target, even though I am fixing at some target. That part is called as the visual field. Okay, the things which we are able to see even when we are fixating at some target is called as visual field, and that is hampered in case of glaucoma. So these patients can have good vision of 6/6, okay, even when there is advanced glaucoma, because the field is getting compromised, not the central vision. So in the advanced cases of glaucoma, you can still see patient with 6/6 vision, but the visual field will be compromised. So this is about the visual fields. So hope you got an overall idea about the glaucoma now. So I have explained about the optic disc, the arrangement of the optic nerve fibers in the optic disc, the damage to the optic nerve fibers which are caused by the raised intraocular pressure. So I have spoken about the intraocular pressure and the aqueous humor production and the drainage as well as the visual fields. This is in brief I have spoken. We will see in detail in the further videos. Before closing, we will see the definition of glaucoma now. Now you will understand the definition better. Okay. The definition of glaucoma is, it is a chronic progressive optic neuropathy with characteristic optic disc changes with the corresponding visual field defects, for which the IOP is the most important but not invariably the cause of glaucoma. Okay. So this is the definition of glaucoma. So let me repeat, it is a chronic disease and it is progressing involving the optic nerve. So optic neuropathy, it has the characteristic optic disc changes which I explained with corresponding visual field defects. The optic disc changes and the visual field defects should correlate, and for which the IOP is most common cause but not invariable cause of the disease. So this is the definition of glaucoma. Next, coming to the announcement which I wanted to make. So at the end of each video, I will be including 5 questions which are almost like 1 mark question or a short answer question, and which are more often asked in your PG entrance exams also. So I will be including those 5 questions from this video only. So if you carefully go through this video, you will have the answer for all the 5 questions. Okay. And you can leave the answer for all these questions in the comment section, and those who answers all these 5 questions correctly will receive a shout out or the congratulation from my side in my next video. Okay, I will take your name and announce in my next videos. It is just to motivate you and to keep the things more interesting. Okay, hope all of you will take interest and answer my questions and leave your answers in the comment box. Hope all of you will enjoy and participate in this question answer session. Okay. So here are the questions on this video. How many retinal nerve fibers are there in human retina or the optic nerve? What are the 2 aqueous outflow systems? Which is the only modifiable risk factor for glaucoma? What is the normal episcleral venous pressure? Which optic nerve fibers are most affected in glaucoma? So I am really excited to take your names in my next video. Leave your answers in comment section now only. Thank you. If you like my videos and the content of the video, please do subscribe to my channel. Press the bell icon button and please do like and share my video.